welcome to episode 50 of the MMG podcast. I am Chris, and I am joined yet again by my good friend Go Cubs 711.
That's right, folks. And we're here to recap the only important football game that happened between this podcast and the last one. That's right, the championship.
The sad part is I know exactly what you said, but you cut off right as you said it.
Oh,
You said the college football championship.
yeah.
Yes.
The only game that happened. Clemson just blew out Alabama, and it was really exciting.
It was
exciting.
It was an exciting football match. I forgot that was this week. It's been a long week.
Sure was. That was 2 days ago, Chris.
It's been a long week. Welcome everyone to the 50th episode of the MMG podcast. It is our how do we call it? Half centennial.
Semi-centennial
podcast,
I guess.
Anyways, yes, we are 50 episodes into this goddamn mess of a podcast.
Episode L. Super Bowl 50 decided to be Super Bowl 50 and not L. We're calling this podcast episode L.
It is too late to edit the thumbnail for that.
Damn it. Well, it's episode L in my heart.
There you go. So welcome to episode L, everyone. L for losers, because there's a lot of major losers this weekend, but a lot of winners as well, and we'll be moving to
exactly the same number.
Yes, and we'll be breaking those down in a minute. We'll also be going through the some of the coaching announcements that happened this week as of Wednesday 7 p.m. because I'm sure there will be more announcements coming. And then we'll be picking the games, which was a absolutely torturous experience.
Oh yeah.
And probably one of my tougher divisional weekends to date. But with all that being said, let's dive in to the divisional weekend, and we're gonna start off.
Well, are we not gonna recap wildcard?
That's what I meant. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Wildcard weekend.
All right.
Yeah. I am. It is. I am still recovering from pre-podcast picking these games. Colts Texans was their kickoff, and it ended up being the largest deficit of the week. So I guess you could say it was our blowout of the week. With the Colts basically from the get-go, with a few, I think that it was their opening drive that they just marched right on down the field and scored a touchdown, and they ended up being up 21-0 by the halftime. They didn't end up scoring any points in the second half, but the Texans just fell apart. The secondary did not play well. Deshaun Watson did not play well. A lot of people on him for celebrating every single first down he had. I don't really know if that's necessary criticism, but that's been thrown out there. And the defensive ends for the Texans, they had moments in the game where they tried to step up, but they were completely manhandled by the Colts offensive line, one of the best, if not the best unit. I would just say best unit in the NFL. That they were able just to completely shut down the pass rushing attack and were able to open up holes for Marlon Mack, who had the most rushing yards during the weekend. Andrew Luck just had such a great game with T.Y. Hilton, and we talked about last week how few weapons, but one Dontrell Inman came out of nowhere and had a great game as well. Eric Ebron also continuing the amount of touchdowns. That's the amount of touchdowns he scored this year. You can't even count them anymore. They just had an all around absolutely fantastic game, and I think that a lot of people who had been sleeping on them to this point, I think they've awoken now. I mean, the Texans, they were struggling down the stretch. There was the reason why I think both me and Gokos decided to pick the Colts last week. But honestly, go Cubs. This Colts team has what it takes to go all the way.
It does. It legitimately does, and that's really surprising to me considering how they started the season and how they were last year.
Right.
Uh, it's a testament to what Frank Reich has done there, which is God, uh, uh, what Frank Reich has done there, what their offensive line is doing to protect their quarterback, something that was not a thing that the Colts are known for
Mm-hmm.
in front of Andrew Luck.
Right.
So, so the um, that that was a very good performance by the Colts,
Yeah.
and they're going to be dangerous.
They're frisky. I mean,
Yeah,
a testament to Chris Ballard as well, the general manager, who came in here and came into the Indianapolis after Ryan Grigson got fired a few years back, and he was just basically like, we need to build from the line. And sure enough, after years of having being the Colts, their biggest Achilles heel more than anything was the bad offensive line, and then Andrew Luck not being healthy, partly because of that. Um, he comes in here, he rebuilds the offensive line, and it's one of the best. Like I said, I would say it's the best group remaining in the playoffs. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and it's going to be very interesting to see. They're going up against the Chiefs this week, and the Chiefs, their best part of their defense has been their pass rush. That hasn't made it like amazing either. And I feel like with how the Colts shut down J.J. Watt, David Clowney, I don't see if that maybe the Chiefs will probably have a tough time having any of their stars on the defensive side try to take down Andrew Luck. It was a tough game to watch. Certainly for me watching it as a Deshaun Watson fan, I actually felt so bad that I went and put on the Watson jersey that I got for Christmas last year, because I was just like, let's just have like him come back. I don't need him to win. I just you can't go out like this. And it was a tough game for you. Go Cubs. What do you think of the Texans going into next year?
I think the Texans are going to be fine. A little bit more solidity, maybe a change of running back, or some more depth at the wide receiver position, and they're going to be just fine going forward. Just didn't quite find that gel right at the end that they needed.
Yeah, the secondary too. I think really is going to need something, anything to improve it. And like Tyrann Mathieu and Kareem Jackson, both of them had great years, and just down the stretch were not playing well. And they're both, I think, free agents going into next year. So I don't know if they're going to be re-signed or not. But um, I think that the Texans are going to be. They'll be fine. Bill O'Brien, I think, proved though that he's still one of the best coaches in the league. He didn't have a great coaching day. I think that he probably should have let Deshaun Watson dictate a lot more of the plays at the line. But I still respect him as a coach, and we'll see how he comes back, and maybe he'll see that maybe let Watson take more control of the play calling down
Yeah.
going into next season. Let's move on to Seahawks and Cowboys.
Seahawks and Cowboys. So the uh, pretty low scoring for the first part of the game. Cowboys leading at the half, 10-6, and then it was pretty back and forth the rest of the game. But Cowboys really just solidified it at the very end and were able to seal this up.
Yeah, what it really did seem like this game was going in either direction. I think I personally thought it was the best game of the weekend, despite the fact that at the end it was the Seahawks who were they were ended up being down 2 scores, but it was like you thought the Cowboys would just be like, all right, just shut them down one more time, and then we're good. But then all of a sudden, Russell Wilson jumps back to pass, and he finds Tyler Lockett wide open in the secondary, and then
Tyler Lockett was this offseason was an interesting extension. That man, he is really good.
He's
He has paid off for the Seahawks team
yeah.
this year and will continue to in the future. So I'm glad they got that set up.
Yeah, Doug Baldwin had been the wide receiver one, and he's been like, he's kind of played the Julio role in the sense that not necessarily the tall wide receiver role, but the idea of being the one that gets the guys down the field, but not to actually score the touchdown. Um, and so his role kind of got reduced, and it feels like Lockett's role is increasing. So that's gonna be good for them going forward. I believe almost all of them are under contract going into next season. But my favorite part of the whole game was that they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. They went for the 2-point conversion, got it, but they still needed an onside kick. And a part of this game was Sebastian Janikowski, their kicker. His hamstring.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he kind of blew out during one of the kicks, and they had to play a lot of the game having to do 2-point conversions.
Knowing that they weren't going to have a kicker to kick field goals, their punter tried to set up for a kick and also drop kick field goals, but that was not a thing that was happening well. So
yeah.
the Seahawks had to play without a kicker essentially.
Yes.
And that I think ultimately changed the result of the game was Janikowski's injury.
Yeah, I think so too. And then when it came down to the onside kick, yeah, he had to drop kick it, and like it was, to me, it was absolutely hilarious because like I think that any of us, if maybe like with like a little bit of practice, could probably like just kick a football like 10 yards, like a little bit, just do some semblance of a onside kick,
Yeah.
But Michael Dixon, who's, by the way, had an amazing year. He was the Texas punter that everyone fell in love with prior to the draft, and he got taken by the Seahawks, and he had an amazing year. I think he got a Pro Bowl bid. This is nothing against him, but my God, he takes the ball, he drop kicks it, and it goes the length of almost a kickoff, and it was like, oh, are you?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Foot too strong.
But that's, yeah, Seahawks. They're building a young unit. I'm not too down on them.
Especially if this is like their quote unquote low point.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, this was supposed to be the rebuild year, and it looks like they're gonna just keep on building to potentially be a contender next year. Now, as for the Cowboys, what did you think of them boys?
God. Look, I don't want to say nice things about them, but I have to.
Yes.
Because their defense is good, their offense got their shit together, and they're just playing really well. I will admit that Amari Cooper trade
was good.
Was worth it.
Was worth it. Yes. Jumped on trade.
The first round pick was worth it. Yep. Yeah. It turned their team around, and now they're one game away from the NFC Championship. And I'm just waiting for it to fall apart.
I can just hear the vomit in your mouth at the moment.
Yep. Yeah.
But I'll for
they'll have a tough game this week, I think. But
of course, I think every game for everyone at this point is going to be very difficult. The Cowboys, I think, right. You basically you said my point there that I think the Amari Cooper trade worked out for them because it kept their offense going. But look, I think that we should give a little respect to Dak Prescott because I felt like there was times down the stretch where he started the year in rough shape, and I think when Amari Cooper came, he started playing a little bit better down the stretch. But I did think that the game that they were playing was going to be at least a little bit exposed by the Seahawks defense, and it did not come to pass, and I think that the Dak Prescott, he secured the bag. He got his money, I think, in that game. And he proved that he could play quarterback with the right people around him. So I think he ran the ball well. He had like almost a John Elway helicopter like or flip type thing into the end zone or close to the end zone.
Yeah.
Um, in this game too. So like he's willing to run the ball, and it's just he's starting to get there. I don't know how much further he's gonna go in this playoff, but I think the Cowboys are gonna have their guy for at least a little bit, and we'll see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Another point from that game was a really nasty injury to wide receiver Allen Hurns
Mm-hmm.
that got a lot of talk. He looks okay, but I watched I didn't see the play happen, but I watched the video and like just I felt awful
Mm-hmm.
both for him and just like seeing a foot turn that direction
Yeah, and
wasn't pretty.
yeah, and a lot of people thought it was career ending around the spot, and it looked like that way when they had to bring out the stretcher. Um, but the good news was that at least I think Adam Schefter came out and reported that this was very much an injury that looked really, really bad and needed surgery right away, but ended up not costing him his career, and he could even be ready by next season, which is excellent to hear. And Dr. David Chow, who's always on this stuff, when he first saw it, he said that it very much was reminiscent of the Odell Beckham injury that happened last season. Took him out for the rest of the year, but he ended up coming back the next season, and so I think that Allen Hurns hopefully will be able to play. I don't know if he will be on the team. He didn't have necessarily the best year, but we will know him from his time in Jacksonville for a little bit. Prior in I believe and his contributions to the Jaguars of 2017 as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and hopefully he'll be able to continue his career going into next year. But regardless, the Cowboys did win, and their defense looks great. And Ezekiel Elliott again, regardless of how you feel about him, personality wise, he had another great game and has been carrying a big part of this offense for this stretch, and he's going to be big against Todd Gurley next week against the Rams. Moving
Yeah.
on, the Chargers went to Baltimore and took care of the Ravens. It was not a great game for Lamar Jackson, and this was just it was one of those games where the offense that they were running kind of was exposed, that they couldn't do what they wanted to do. They could not have him run out, and he unfortunately just could not get the ball, move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And it was just an utterly dominant defensive performance for the Chargers, and the Chargers were held up too by the Ravens defense. That the Ravens defense did as good of a job as they could, but basically the floor fell off from beneath them, and then the Chargers jumped out to a 23-3 lead, and at that point everyone thought it was over, but then something changed, and I think it had to do with the way I guess it could go to coaching again. I'm not too sure, but then Lamar Jackson found a little magic near the end of the game where he
decided to pass the ball instead of running.
well, right. I mean, but he was even struggling with passing before that. But there was something about the routes that the wide receivers were running, or at least the protection that the offensive line were giving Lamar Jackson down the stretch, that he was able to make some really key throws. There was one where he was running forever, able to avoid the pass rush and throw it, and his receiver ended up catching it. He threw a deep ball, very nice deep ball to Michael Crabtree near the end zone or in the end zone. And it was just an absolutely excellent play by him, and it ended up making the game 23-17. The Chargers could not convert on a third down. They had to punt, and it was really starting to look like Lamar Jackson was going to save the day until he ended up getting the ball batted out of his hands when he went to throw it, and it was a fumble recovered by the Chargers, and the Chargers went on to win the game. What did you
Yeah.
think of the Chargers' performance? Go Cubs!
I thought it was excellent. Look, they got stomped on by the Ravens a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they adapted and figured out how to stop and choke this run game. And it was really like interesting. They took a bunch of their players from their secondary and put them in the linebacker position,
Yeah, it,
and that stopped the run. That stopped what the Ravens had been able to do. So this adaptability is going to help the Chargers a lot moving forward.
yeah, it was absolutely brilliant scheming by Gus Bradley. And this was it was just it was one of those games where it just reminded me of what I was saying last week, and I wish I trusted my gut a little bit more, but
Mm.
just the idea of having to play a team so close, to when you last met them, and be able to take advantage of that. The Chargers absolutely did, and they were able to come up with all these different ways to stop the Ravens. And now with Baltimore, they're gonna have to go into the offseason. They're gonna have to figure out a new way to run this offense while Lamar Jackson is comfortable, and hopefully he kind of grows as a quarterback and works on his mechanics and get it, and just keeping the ball out of the other team's hands.
And stop fumbling
Right,
it so damn much.
ball control, accuracy. He needs to work on all of that big time moving forward. But it's not going to be. It's not the again. A lot of these teams that lost this weekend, they have high hopes going into next season, and I do think the Ravens do as well. That John Harbaugh is pretty much going to stay there. There has been rumors that he could be traded, maybe to the Dolphins. There's those things are on the table, but he's probably gonna stay. They released a statement that he's probably gonna stay, so we'll see how that ends up going. But the Joe
I
Flacco's
think he stays.
say again,
Harbaugh stays.
yeah. In your view, should they have started Joe Flacco in the second half?
No, um, a lot of people were joking about it, but with Flacco like really not having played much, the past few weeks, I know he's like an old quarterback, so that might not have mattered that much, but um, I think that trying to get something going with Jackson, and at least if they thought that they weren't going to win at all,
Mm.
then giving Jackson just like that much more like this is what the playoffs feel like when we get here next year, you'll have already experienced it. I think that would help him.
Right. I think that at first it felt like Joe Flacco should have gone in, but once Lamar Jackson was out there for a little bit longer, and then once he had his kind of come from behind, I kind of realized, all right, yeah, I see what they were doing. So I do agree. And I think that this was just an absolute statement by the Ravens, like we are moving on from Joe Flacco. He's no longer a
Yeah,
quarterback. He is going to go somewhere else this offseason. We are not keeping him. Lamar Jackson's our guy, and Joe Flacco is absolutely going to be one of the more coveted quarterbacks this offseason. I think at first I was like, I don't know. I feel like you gotta put someone in there just to kind of make things a little bit better. If you really want to stick around, I mean, you could just start Lamar Jackson next week, but it might have also been just a pride thing. You want to keep him in there and don't want to, crush, if his ego would get crushed by having to be taken out after a half of playoff football. So,
yeah.
we'll see. But meanwhile, the Chargers, they move on. they're looking good. I think on both offense and defense. The big question is going to be if Melvin Gordon can play at a nice level, because he has a knee sprain in both of his knees at the moment. So we'll see how he plays moving forward. And now Eagles at Bears. Go Cubs, take it away.
Do I have
You gotta
to?
do it.
Yeah. So Eagles and Bears. Slow scoring starting off. Eagles kick field goal in the first quarter. Bears kick 2 field goals in the second quarter, leading 6-3 at the half. Third quarter comes around. Eagles score a touchdown, are ahead. Bears score a touchdown, but fail the 2-point conversion. Eagles respond with touchdown, with Bears add on with another field goal. And then Eagles come in, and Golden Tate touchdown ends up doing it.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of the game. Nothing else happened.
Well,
I'm kidding. And then the Bears make a drive down with less than a minute left. And they line up for a field goal, and the field goal is tipped. And because he doinked 4 times in one game, a game that I was in attendance at.
Yep.
I was physically at that game at Soldier Field in the stadium. Mm-hmm. Because the ball hit the goalpost.
Yes.
4 times in one game.
Mm-hmm.
That day, it hit the field goal post twice. So they called it the double doink, and it was really funny for non-Bears fans. And it was really sad for Bears fans, or anger-inducing, either one. Then the next day, they don't even, on the broadcast, even mention the fact that it was tipped. Because no one saw that. They just focused on the fact that it fucking double doinked.
Mm-hmm.
But it was tipped. It was blocked. That's why it didn't fucking go in. So all the dumbass... I'm gonna say it. I'm not one of these people, bandwagon Bears fans, who really just got in the season and then now are angry when something didn't go the way that they expected it to, just angry at Cody Parkey because it was the topical thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? We scored 15 fucking points in that game. 9 of them were by Cody Parkey. There were so many other things that the Bears could have done, and so many other ways that the Bears could have played better to not have a kicker who is good but unreliable be the game-winning choice, right, or be the game-winning thing. He scored most of our points. The Bears' offense could have played a little bit better. They played really well the second half, I thought. Not so great the first half. They kept wasting their plays. They kept having Jordan Howard run the ball when Jordan Howard could barely do stuff running the ball. The defense didn't stop the Eagles as much as they needed to. There was 2 huge pass interference penalties on the same play that led to the Eagles' first touchdown that they could have not done, and then the Eagles wouldn't have gotten that touchdown. There were so many other things that one kick at the end, it was just because it was at the end and it was the one deciding play at the end was why it got all that attention. Mm-hmm. And that's why it sucks for Cody Parkey that he has to go through all of this.
Absolutely.
But the Eagles just played better, and so they won the game. That's what happened. Yeah. Mitch Trubisky, however, best quarterback of Wildcard Weekend. I will say that.
He
had the highest pass rating and threw for the most yards.
Yeah, no, yes, I agree. I think that there was also many times where he could have gotten picked. There was
some throws he should not have made.
There was multiple times where he could have gotten picked off, and I think that I'm not trying to egg on. That is something that was important. I think what's surprising to me is that everyone's talking about Cody Parkey. No one wants to talk about how the defense gave up so many yards at the end of the game there.
Oh yeah, our defense were not the monsters of Midway that week.
The biggest, and this was what we were concerned about with the Bears all weekend. I mean, regardless of lead or not, they kept on having these great first halves where they hold hold these teams to as few points as possible, and then they just give way in the second half, and maybe it's their fault,
Yeah.
maybe it's the offense's fault, who knows? But for some reason, and I don't know what this may be. I don't know if it was Vic Fangio just letting up or whoever, but it just seems like the Bears should get tired in the second half, and it's screwing them over again. And it's here where we are. But with that being said, though, you know, and you know, we all said the same thing about the Jaguars last year. I do think that this is a different team, though, than the last year's Jaguars team. One, because I think that you have a better head coach at the moment in place.
Yeah.
And you just have a ton of young talent. Almost everyone is under contract except for maybe like a second string cornerback or one of their older linebackers. I don't even know, but there's a very, very little Bear free agents going into off season, so you get to retain almost everybody and then add on. I don't know how much cap room the Bears have, though.
Probably not with how much Mac is getting paid.
Right, but... right. That's fair. Yeah. But for you, go Cubs. And I mean, we'll talk about the Eagles in a moment. I don't want to not talk about them. They deserve a lot of praise. But I will just let you do just a post-mortem, how you feel about the Bears. All that stuff.
I was really happy with how this season went. Just everything that mainly the vindication I got from the Bears actually being good and no one believing me.
Right.
We played even though we almost we let up a lot in second halves, we played every game close.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our largest deficit this season was 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
And that was to the fucking Patriots. And that game was lost by a yard. Every other game was lost by 3 points or less, like a field goal kick. that is insane. Yeah. I meant that literally, not the just the Cody Parkey meme. Never mind.
I understand.
Yeah. I was really happy with how this team went. I was really hoping that this was just gonna be the year.
Mm.
Because I knew that we were probably week, I'm gonna say week 15, week 16. I was like, oh shit, Vic Fangio's probably gonna get hired as a head coach somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
And that happened today.
Spoiler.
We'll get into questions later. But so I felt that him leading the defense was gonna be our key, along with what the weird shit Nagy was doing on offense, to help us get to the Super Bowl. But we played really well. I am not upset anymore about the loss, and we're gonna kick some fucking ass next year.
Yeah. And I think that's the way you gotta approach it. I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to be glad that this was a fun magic carpet ride that you got to experience this year, and hopefully it won't be the last for that. Next year, the Bears should be in contention. It's gonna get more difficult with the division seemingly going to be improving. But we'll see. But yeah, I think that the Bears had. It was a fun storyline. I think that was what I was most disappointed about, was that you lose a nice storyline go for next week. But this is what happens in sports. You sometimes the Cinderella stories don't end up always working out, but you look back at them and you're like, I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, you know what they say, don't cry because it's over. Cry because you're ugly. I'm kidding.
My God, wow.
I did that for the shock value. The Eagles going forward are going to have a tough test next week, and will continue to have tough tests going into the Super Bowl. That offensive line, dude, holy shit. Mac didn't lay a hand on Foles.
Yeah.
Akeem Hicks did, but yeah, offensive line played out of their fucking minds. Nick Foles is proving that he is the best quarterback ever to play the game,
Yes.
and um, their defense finally recovering from injury.
The secondary specifically, I thought the Eagles secondary was going to be exposed in this game, but they have not. Even with all their injured players, they kind of, Avonte Maddox had another great game. And he's been on the rise. But yeah, their front has played at the level that they played last year, in that game, and like you said, Nick Foles. I would have preferred the Bears storyline, but something about seeing Nick Foles again and continuing to prove people wrong and continuing to be like, look, I may seem like a backup, but I'm a guy that can just be that keeps on coming in here and taking on this team and looking absolutely incredible. And he didn't have an amazing game. Obviously, I think part of it was playing against a tough defense like that. But yet, he continues to lead this team every single time. And we keep on doubting him every single time. And every single time, he proves us wrong. Time and time again. And we know, you all know, what we're picking this week, and y'all know what way we're gonna go, and we're probably gonna be wrong again. And that's just
We'll see what
it is
happens.
it is one of the greatest NFL storylines that I've experienced, because it is the epitome of an underdog story where you just keep on getting doubted, and yet you keep on knocking off one Goliath after another, and it's like I am so excited to see if he can do something against the Saints, and I think he'll make it a fun game. But it's gonna be interesting going forward. I think all those Eagles fans who are calling for Doug Peterson to be fired earlier this year, they need to go hang their head in shame and not watch any of this Eagles postseason, because you're gonna be proven wrong
They don't deserve
again
it.
and
They
again.
don't fucking deserve it. You stick with your goddamn team,
Yeah.
even when shit seems dumb. And like if you still root for your team, you can shit on your quarterback as much as you want, or shit. Not I said quarterback because I'm getting to another point. You can shit on your players as much as you want, as long as you like continue on your team. That's what it's like. This is what it's like rooting for Jay Cutler.
Right.
Um, but like still be a fan of your team and trust that your team is gonna do what they need to do.
Exactly.
Especially like the guy just won a goddamn Super Bowl.
And we're
Your first ever.
yeah.
And then you don't play like you play average and you're like, "Oh, he's got to go." Your quarterback didn't have a back
It's kind of true. I
for
mean,
most of the season. That's why you sucked.
I mean and it's kind of crazy, and someone there was some really great line in an article. I forget who wrote it, and I'm gonna feel bad for not crediting it, but someone wrote how they did build a statue of Doug Peterson and Nick Foles outside the stadium, and yet the humility that Nick Foles shows every single week has not gone away. He does None of it has gone to his head, and he's like such a team first guy. And like Doug Peterson, he continues to be a great coach. He hasn't had a drop off, maybe earlier this year, but he's turned things around, and it's just, man, the Eagles, whether people want to believe it or not, they're a good story, and you kind of want to root for stories like this. Not necessarily for like back to back Super Bowls, but just they're fun. It's fun when you see a guy succeed when most people think he would not.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be fun moving forward. Okay. So that's your wild card weekend. It was good. It was messy, but it was a good weekend. You had three one score games, only one blowout. All of them were messy all around, and a lot of defense. In a year of offense, a lot of defense, and yet the two most defensive teams got eliminated this weekend. So go figure.
Yep.
Um, And with the results of this week, we are 1-3 in picking the playoffs so far. So
Hell yeah, we
we're off
are.
to a great start. 100,
Hell yeah.
156, 102 is our overall right now, for each of our picks. Um,
Dude.
and
Nice.
and also, I just remembered we should just quickly take a moment to talk about the coaching news because I forgot about that.
Yeah, real
Yeah,
fast.
real fast. We got the latest news is that the first one was Packers hiring Titans offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur. Then we had Arizona Cardinals hire the former Texas Tech head coach Cliff Kingsbury. Then Tampa Bay hired former Arizona Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians as their new head coach, and the Browns, they get to stay in house with their head coaching pick with offensive coordinator Freddie Kitchens, sticking with the Baker. And finally,
With the baker in the kitchens.
there you go. And finally, the Denver Broncos, yes, as we alluded to earlier, hired the Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. So we'll really break down those hires and all that during Pro Bowl week when we have time to kind of
A
reminisce
lot more
about
time.
this season and all
Does
that.
that mean the Dolphins and Jets are the only ones
And
without?
the Bengals.
And Bengals.
Yes, so
Get on it,
we're yeah,
dudes.
they're on three. It seems the rumors are Jets are very much looking at Mike McCarthy. They were looking at Matt Rule from Baylor, but he literally, as I'm sitting here, just took his name out of the running for that.
Yeah.
Um, the Bengals are looking at either Vance Joseph or Hugh Jackson. So there you go. And
God damn. If they fucking hire Hugh Jackson, I will lose my
he's
shit.
staying. He's staying. He's either going to be a head
He,
coach.
he can he can stay on the team, but are you really gonna let a guy who went 3-31-1 as a head coach for an Orange, Ohio team coach you?
I mean, it's
Don't do it.
he it's even it's he
Don't.
might be the offensive coordinator, and they're thinking Vance Joseph might take over as head coach. That's the rumor right now. We're not too sure. And as of now, the Dolphins, as I talked about earlier, they were thinking about maybe if they could convince Baltimore trading for John Harbaugh. I don't see that happening, but there is rumor out there that they're going to get Dallas passing game coordinator Chris Richard potentially. So we'll see how that all goes. We'll find out probably more news by
Do
next.
you remember when Harbaugh was the quarterback for the Bears?
I do not, because I was probably young and did not know about them at that point.
Probably true.
But
But he was
yeah, no, he was. It was Jim Harbaugh was.
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, he was the quarterback at the Colts as well.
Yeah.
That was the last time the Colts played Kansas City, I think.
Uh-huh.
In Kansas
In the
City
playoffs.
in the playoffs. In Kansas City in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They played only a few years ago in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting game. We'll talk about that in just a second because we're going to dive on into the divisional. Oh, and before we do that, actually, I'm so sorry. Super Bowl picks. We got
Yeah.
both of us lost a team.
Look, it's an improvement for me from last year because last year both of my picks got eliminated wild card weekend.
No, I forgot. It was Rams Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Ah, damn.
Marcus Mariota fucking throwing a goddamn touchdown to himself. But we need to replace our Super Bowl picks.
So who's your NFC
I
champion?
am AFC champion. I'm going to keep the Chiefs. New NFC champion. Going to slide the Saints in there. Just take who I had in the AFC champion or in the NFC championship and move the Saints up.
Mm-hmm.
Continue the my week 8 pick or my week 9 pick, which was the Saints, and I still think that is going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I pretty much did the same. My week 8 pick was Chargers Saints, and I'm gonna stick with Chargers Saints now. So we're gonna ride with our mid-season Super Bowl picks now, and we'll see how far that goes. And then I think that's pretty much that. and we will now go to our picks. Oh boy, this I am nervous about this, but we're gonna start out with the Colts, who just demolished the Texans last weekend. Will be going to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes versus Andrew Luck. The big question for this game is will the Colts be able to handle the pressure of playing in Arrowhead Stadium, and will the Chiefs defense step up to take down Luck and Frank Reich? Well, I guess we could go a little in depth here. Go, Coach. What do you think is like the main aspect of this game that's gonna be the most important?
The defenses stopping the offenses on both sides, because the Chiefs' offense has been the thing that's probably been talked about all year long the most, particularly one young Pat Mahomes, and particularly by one old Chris Collinsworth. But yeah, the quarterback battle here is going to be insane. Both teams have offenses that work extremely well together. They're really dynamic. Frank Reich is part of the Andy Reid coaching tree. Andy Reid is Andy Reid. There's a lot going with both teams, and I think the offenses are going to be the big things, and the defenses on each side just need to stop them in one way or another.
Yeah, I think about like I said earlier, I do wonder about the offensive lines for both of these teams. The Colts, they manhandled the Texans' defensive line. They should be able to take down the Chiefs. Be able to shut down the Chiefs' defensive line. But my question is going to be with the Chiefs' offensive line. Will they be able to contain Patrick Mahomes, or will they have to? Is the question, because Patrick Mahomes has the ability to kind of escape the pocket a little bit more, I think, than Andrew Luck does. But the Colts pass rushers haven't been outstanding. It's maybe their only weak point as a team.
Yeah.
But they can certainly cause they can certainly stop the run, and that's going to be a big issue for the Chiefs, because they don't have anyone that's been a major help back there, except for maybe Damian Williams every now and then. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all ends up working out. The Chiefs are the Super Bowl favorites. The Colts are going to play underdog, but this is such a tight matchup, an even matchup. What is going to happen in this game? Go Cubs.
I don't want to say the Arrowhead curse is a thing, but the Chiefs really need to win a playoff game at home, because that's just not a thing that they've been able to do, right?
Right.
But like I feel like that the Chiefs have, God, this is so fucking hard. Because the Chiefs have struggled a little bit against good opponents. They've lost to the Chargers and the Seahawks 2 weeks in a row.
Right. And almost lost to the Ravens.
Yeah, almost lost to the Ravens too. It's fuck, I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm like stalling while talking to try to figure out what I'm gonna say.
While you're stalling, I'll take over for just a second. I'm not gonna pick my game.
I'm just gonna finish mine, because I don't have the full reasoning behind why I think this is the right choice, but I still feel like the Chiefs are the right choice, because I think their offense is still that much better than the Colts offense, that I think that the Chiefs are going to win this game.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that much better. I do think that Patrick Mahomes is very, but I think he's such a much more of a playmaker. The throws that he makes are insane, that quarterbacks wish they can do, and I think that's what leads me in that direction too. but the Colts are gonna put up a hell of a fight, and I don't know if I feel good picking against them, but I'm going to. I just think the Chiefs, and I think that the defense, even though I don't completely trust it, has been improving. The secondary is not good though at all, and that's what worries me with Luck at the helm. And I think that the Colts do have receivers that can tear through it. And then you have the curse, but I gotta go with Chiefs. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I'm gonna go Chiefs. And real quick, breaking news: Adam Gase is gonna be the new head coach of the New York Jets.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
There you go. We'll talk about it in a little bit. We'll talk about it in the Pro Bowl podcast. But the Adam Gase just has been named, or not named, but the report is out by Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington, and also Ian Rappaport of NFL Media. Adam Gase.
Mike McCarthy's not going anywhere then.
So
because that's the only team he wanted.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy. Yeah, he might be. A lot of people said he was going to be taking off for a year. He probably will do that since the Jets were the only team that he wanted, as you said. So, all right, back to the divisional weekend. So we both went with the Chiefs. I may come back to that, but I'm going with Chiefs right now. Next up, the Cowboys are going back to LA where they practice during training camp, and they're going to be taking on the Rams. And this Rams team was really, really struggling down the stretch. The offense was just not there, and their defense was still giving up some points, and they started to gain momentum down in the last 2 weeks, so that there's your sign of hope there. They have the home field advantage, and they have a lot of the great players and a better head coach than who's on the other sideline. The Cowboys, though, come out with a very difficult defense. Their running game's there, and the offense is starting to click together with Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott playing at a nice level. What are the keys for this game, Go Cubs?
It's gonna be you should ask me these questions in advance so I can write them
down. Sorry.
I think the keys in this game is going to be which side can run the ball better. Because Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott are everyone's darlings when it comes to the running back, and add on C.J. Anderson on the Rams side, who played amazingly in the past couple games, and that's pretty much it.
This is fair enough. And
going into more opinions about who I think is going to win this game, if you don't mind transitioning to that.
I was just gonna say that I think the biggest key to this game is which defense really steps up, because I think the defense of the Cowboys have proven themselves, so it's going to be up to the Rams to actually step up and slow down this Cowboys offense. But go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I think overall offense-wise, the Rams are so much more well-rounded in what they can do, who they pass to. There's no clear standout, and so they're harder to. They were at least harder to predict, like what's going to happen. Obviously, going up against good defenses has been a little bit of trouble for Los Angeles. See the Bears, and the Eagles,
and the Lions.
And the Lions. So that's gonna be rough for them for sure. But I think that now that this is they're back in the playoffs after last year, they still have that super offensive drive and good offense and great defensive players. That will be enough for them to take down the Cowboys.
The thing is, though, with the Rams is that their only great defensive player at the moment has been Aaron Donald. And he can single-handedly shut down drives for sure. And I think that the way that Wade Phillips has played this game or has schemed up this defense, that they are able to play a key role in shutting down this team. But it's not this. I think the Rams, one of my biggest disappointments with this team has been they've played so poorly on defense throughout the year that they, like, all the free agents and trade acquisitions that they had, they ended up rendering meaningless, and it's kind of hurting them right now. When I think about the offense right now for the Rams as well, they just, Jared Goff hasn't had like an amazing game since November, since the Kansas City game. And I don't know whether that's the weather or not. And I think, all that being said, the Cowboys, to me, I really don't think that they are a better team than the Rams, but I just think that this has the makings of one of those one and done seasons, unfortunately, for the Rams. And I think that the Cowboys, in their current iteration, with the talent that they have, you can make the argument that in the last month alone, that the quarterback, running back, offensive line, linebackers, defensive line, secondary have all played better than the Rams. And I feel strongly about that, and I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Okay.
So that's
that gives me a lot of stress.
I also think that
this is the first time we have disagreed this postseason.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I'm look. The one thing that I would be worried about the most with the Cowboys, though, is the coaching staff. I still don't really have a lot of faith in Jason Garrett. And I feel like we've always criticized them for not really using their talent well. And I'm worried about the Cowboys playing outside, not being at home. They haven't really played amazingly on the road. Not that they have an inability to do so. They certainly have. But I think that they are, they've had a lot of close calls in this stretch that I am a little bit worried about. But I look at the Rams and I'm like, is this team really better than the Cowboys at the moment? And if the Rams return to November Rams, then they're way better. But it's not been that team for the last month, at least. So that's where I'm at. Let's move forward here to Sunday. The Chargers going to New England to take on the Patriots, and it feels like the last few seasons, the Patriots have gotten gimmies. With the Texans, not with whoever they had at quarterback. I think it was Brock Osweiler at the time. And Marcus Mariota, the Titans, they didn't really have that talented of a team. Got lucky to beat the Chiefs the week before. But now you got a Chargers team that is all around a really, really good unit. And it's going to be a tough task for Brady, Belichick, and history, as history has been that the Patriots are usually very, very good coming off of a bye. What do you think the toughest part of this game is going to be for the Patriots? Go Cubs.
It's going to be dealing with the really good Chargers offense. Phillip Rivers is doing a great job with his team, and he did what he did against the Ravens defense, which could be considered, which is definitely like one of the top 3 defenses in the league. And their defense being able to adapt to something they struggled with, and their ability to do things. So the Patriots are going to have to find a way to around what the Chargers are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chargers are gonna just have to not fucking choke. That's all I can say.
The Patriots, the biggest storyline has been how the offense has kind of dwindled down, and it's not the offense that we're used to. But it's become one of those run-first teams, and Sony Michel's a big part of that. Rex Burkhead has been a big part of that. So the running backs for the Patriots are going to be big in this game. I don't know how far Tom Brady can run it, so he won't be any Lamar Jackson, but he can still throw the football, and they still have Edelman. They're going to be playing a role. Gronk will, try not to look too old when he plays. He's slowed down greatly, but maybe the week off would help. We'll see. This could end up being that the Patriots have just needed the bye, and that maybe they're reinvigorated and turn into the Super Bowl team that we've seen over the years. But it does feel different this time. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I think that the Chargers are going to show up once again and take down the Patriots. The Chargers are a really good team. They clearly play better on the road, no matter what situation they're in. And I think the combined strengths of the offense and the defense are going to really help out, especially if Hunter Henry returns this week. Which is the point we brought up last week.
Yes.
Especially if Melvin Gordon can figure out his knees.
That his knees are a thing.
His knees are a thing, and they are not looking good. But I still think he's going to play and have some.
Yeah, the thing of it, I think that Melvin Gordon will be fine, and the thing is like a few notes real quick. It was originally going to snow this weekend, in Foxborough, for this game, which really made me think, shit, I think the Patriots are going to win then, because the Chargers are from the exact opposite side of the United States. I don't think that this is going to work out their favor. And then I also was looking at my preseason and my midseason predictions, and both times where I had the layout of the playoffs, at Chargers Patriots was a matchup in my preseason and midseason predictions. I had the Patriots advancing in both matchups. Well, unfortunately today I think a streak dies, and I think that after years of picking the Patriots on a daily, weekly basis, I think for once my head's telling me what the fuck are you doing, but my heart's telling me go with where your heart is. Go where I am, I guess. And
my heart's telling
me. I think that the Chargers are going to win this game, so I'm picking the Chargers. I think that they're a more talented team than the Patriots. If we get the Patriots team that is seems as lost as it has been in the final stretch of the season.
They lost 2 games in a row this season, and that was a big deal.
It absolutely was, and I it's worth talking about. I'm not. I don't know. This was one of my games where I was pretty sure I was picking the Chargers, but I genuinely think that the Patriots are gonna come fuck me up now that I picked against them and they're gonna win. But there's just something about this that I think it's gonna work out.
You just gotta go with it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But very exciting game coming up for these Chargers, and big time for Phillip Rivers to cement his legacy as a Hall of Fame quarterback and get to the fucking championship for once. My God. Let's move on to the final game of the week. The Eagles at the Saints. Nick Foles once again staring at what is going to be. 1 year ago, they had to play the Falcons. Of course, the Eagles were the 1 seed. Now they are the 6 seed, taking on the 1-seeded Saints, what many viewed going into the postseason as the best team in the league. And Mr. Go Cubs, my question to you is going to be, does Nick Foles, or can this Eagles team play close with the Saints?
The thing about a lot of the other matchups that we've seen this weekend is that you have the Chiefs, who, yes, are great, struggle against good opponents. That's just a fact. The Rams, good team, struggled in December, except against the 49ers. The Saints continued to be dominant. The Panthers game was different because they rested a lot of their starters.
Yeah.
So Panthers game withstanding.
Yes.
The Saints have continued time in and time out that they are the best team in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a crime if they lost this game. And I legitimately think that as good as Nick Foles is, as well as the Eagles have been playing, that the Saints as a whole are a much better team, and it's going to be an even harder trip and atmosphere to play in the Superdome than it was Soldier Field for the Eagles. And I say that the Saints will come marching in.
I think you can make the argument that this is going to be a very, very tight game, that the Eagles could pull the upset, but then there's just a part of me that feels like the talent on the Saints is just going to be too much for the Eagles to overcome. It's been an incredible story to this point, but I think it's going to have to come to an end eventually. I think the key to this game is going to be Alvin Kamara and Drew Brees, the two best offensive players, and Michael Thomas, the three best offensive players on that team, and all of them, just playing their hearts out against the Eagles defense that has reawoken but has flaws to them. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think they could go after Nick Foles, but I feel like no matter what they throw at Nick Foles, that he's going to be able to do something with it because he's just magical. So I think the key to this game is going to be Drew Brees just outdueling him. So I have a lot of faith that they're going to do that. So I'm going to go Saints as well in this one. Guys, so with that being said, we are now done with our the divisional round picks, and we disagreed.
You want to hear a fun fact?
On one, yes.
All of the teams that played in the wild card weekend are playing in the exact same time slots this weekend.
There you go. So not too much of an adjustment for any of the teams that had to play last weekend.
Yeah.
And also, it is worth noting too, and I thought about this when I was picking between the Colts and Chiefs. Every single quarterback without playoff experience lost last weekend, and the only one left in the playoffs is Patrick Mahomes.
That is true.
So I
don't think that technically he has playoff experience as a backup. But he was on the team.
I don't think that counts.
He was on the team.
That does not count as playoff experience.
Mitch, Deshaun, and Lamar were not.
I don't think that's how it works. So that's gonna be interesting. I am still staring at my pick, but I think I'll stick with it with the Chiefs. I think the Colts can do it. I really do.
I totally do.
Yeah.
I legitimately say that they can.
And and the one that we disagree the most on, Cowboys Rams. I was thinking if that with the Rams, I honestly thought that if you actually turned on the Cowboys, my jaw was gonna hit the floor. I was like, wow.
Chris, I have a sense of pride. And that pride includes not picking the Cowboys.
Fair enough. I like, regardless of what happens in that game.
I gave them enough credit.
Fair enough.
This podcast already.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes this weekend. But I think regardless of how that particular game goes, if it ends up being the Chiefs and Chargers in the AFC Championship game, and the Saints versus whichever, Rams or Cowboys, I think it's going to be a fascinating championship weekend. Nothing against the Colts I think would make it interesting too, but nothing against the Eagles and Patriots at this point, but
everything against the Patriots.
Yeah, sure. Yes, everything against the Patriots, but you guys are the reigning Super Bowl teams, and I think it's time to step aside and let the rest of the league play out, and we'll see how this all goes. It's going to be a fun weekend. Looking forward to it. And anything else that you would like to add, Go Cubs?
Not
We're
really.
good, and yeah, I'm good too. Um, but thank you guys so much, and hopefully we won't suck at picking games this weekend. We'll see how it ends up going.
Let's hope we don't suck.
And with that being said, be good to one another, be kind to one another, and we'll see you guys for championship weekend predictions. Bye bye.